So over the weekend, a video from the year 2001 was released, leaked somehow to Channel 10 in Israel. So this video was of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel right now. I don't think at the time. And he was paying a condolence call, I guess, to some widows of some IDF soldiers who'd been killed in the Second Intifada. And he starts kind of, just kind of talking off the cuff and saying things that he wouldn't have said on video normally. But in this case, he kind of, I guess mass media won't cover it, Eric, but for people who are paying attention to things like this has made a lot of news over the weekend anyway. And I guess, why don't you just fill us in on basically, what was said there and what was revealed, and then we can talk about how important it is and why and so forth.
Well, what Netanyahu said in this sort of unguarded moment, if this is in fact accurate and genuine, which it looks like, is that, and this is back in 2001, that he restated his bitter opposition to the Oslo Accords that Israel's prime minister had signed with Yasser Arafat and the Palestinians, and indicated that he had found a loophole in the agreements that Israel agreed to withdraw its settlements in the West Bank. But Netanyahu, like a good lawyer, suddenly found out that he said, except for military ones. And he said, well, we'll just make all of our settlements military ones. And then finally, his opposition was questioned, well, what's America and the rest of the world is going to say? And Netanyahu essentially said, don't worry about America. They're with us. We can move America. We can change America. And I'm going to go ahead with the program.
Now, for people who are just tuning in, not sure what we're talking about, it's a brand new video from 2001, just leaked, of Benjamin Netanyahu in a living room, the Prime Minister of Israel, explaining how it was that he got over on Bill Clinton. Basically, you can read the transcript of the whole thing at mondoweiss.net, Philip Weiss's blog. The title of the entry is "The World Won't Say a Thing, Netanyahu on the Ongoing Israeli Expansion." And as Raimondo says in his column today, Eric, here is, or at least what's new here, is not the degree to which Israel controls the American government. We already know that. The new thing here is the disdain that Benjamin Netanyahu has for us. And when he talks about how the American people, we have 80% support over there, it's absurd, he says.
Well, he said in America, he said, I know, this is Netanyahu is being quoted, I know what America is. America is something that can be easily moved to the right correction. Netanyahu's predecessor, Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, said it even more pithily. Somebody said, Prime Minister, what's the U.S. going to say? He says, don't worry about the U.S. I control the U.S. Leave it to me. This is simply stating the obvious, but we're not allowed to say that in North America.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because when I searched Netanyahu in the news, I found a whole bunch of reprints of his Fox transcript and that kind of thing. There's very little return for this in Google News unless you are more specific. Type in Hebron or something else.
Well, Netanyahu, unlike many other politicians, has not been as hypocritical as most of them. He's been clear and he's been consistent from day one that he bitterly opposed the Oslo agreements with the Palestinians to withdraw from the West Bank and create a Palestinian state. He's been adamant ever since. He's done his best to sabotage them and the Wye River Accords that he worked out with a very pro-Israel Bill Clinton. And then ever since now, he said no withdrawal. He's made it plain the right-wing coalition in Israel, not 1 inch will be given back to the Palestinians.
Wow. Okay, I want to read through a little bit of this transcript just because I like it so much here. Again, for people just tuning in, this is video of Benjamin Netanyahu from the year 2001. Talking in a living room about what his policy was in the 90s when he was the prime minister, talking about the Oslo Accords. Well, we have to basically beat the Palestinians into submission, he says. And then the woman asks, but wait a moment. Then the world will say, how come you're conquering again? And Netanyahu says, the world won't say a thing. The world will say, we're defending. Aren't you afraid of the world, Bibi? Netanyahu, especially today with America. I know what America is. America is something that can be easily moved to the right correction. Then the child speaks up. They say they're for us, but it's like Netanyahu says, they won't get in our way. They won't get in our way. So let's say they say something. So they said it. They said it. 80% of the Americans support us. It's absurd. We have that kind of support, and we say, look, the administration was extremely pro-Palestinian. I wasn't afraid to maneuver there. I was not afraid to clash with Clinton. I was not afraid to clash with the United Nations. I was paying the price anyway. I preferred to receive the value for the price. And then as they go on, she says, yeah, but you had to give up some of Hebron. And then he explains, yeah, but all that really meant was what, Eric?
That he was just going to reclassify the area as a military area and not withdraw. Or he was going to give 2 inches to keep the rest of a mile.
Yeah, there you go. And quotes his own father. Right. Says, yeah, my father always said, yeah, make it look like you're giving up something and then keep almost all of it.
Which has been his strategy ever since.
Yeah, wow. Well, it really is amazing. And I guess... well, it's not amazing about Benjamin Netanyahu. What is amazing, again, I guess, is the denial that most of the American population are in, and the disdain that Benjamin Netanyahu has for our support for him. It's absurd, he says. We got Eric Margolis on the phone.
I'm Angela Keaton for LibertyStickers.com. Admit it, our public debate has been reduced to reading each other's bumper stickers. So visit LibertyStickers.com and find great stickers like, "The surge is working." On you. What happens in Vegas stays in a government database forever. The right is wrong, the left is stupid. Barack Obama, bloodthirsty warmonger. LibertyStickers.com, that's 877-873-9626. LibertyStickers.com. Everyone else's stickers suck.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. It's Anti-War Radio. I'm Scott Horton. I'm talking with Eric Margolis. His website is ericmargolis.com. It's spelled like Margolis. I think probably sometimes I say it wrong because I'm just not thinking. It's Eric Margolis. And he's the author of the books American Raj, Liberation or Domination, and War at the Top of the World. He's covered, I think more than a dozen wars all around the world for more than a generation. And he's a foreign correspondent for Sun National Media in Canada. Still hanging on the line there, Eric?
I'm still here, Scott. May I make a correction? I'm from Sun Media only for another 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yes. The owners of the paper, apparently, they're starting a new TV network in Canada, which is reputed to be the Fox TV of Canada, and it's designed to.
And you're going to have a show on there?
No. My contract has been ended, and I'm too heretical even for this chain that's carried me for 27 years. Apparently, the new Fox TV station is designed to support the Conservative Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, who's simply following George Bush's playbook to the letter. So heretics like me, who question war in Afghanistan or deficit spending or any of these other things, are being shown the door.
Yeah, well, you should come back to America where you're from anyway, right?
I should, and I will. In fact, I'm looking to get myself another apartment in my native hometown of New York City.
Yeah, there you go. And then you can start writing for the New York Times.
I have in the past. I've been banned from the Wall Street Journal, another New York paper. It's not easy being a outspoken person in today's American media.
Yeah, well, because the media is there to serve the empire. And if you're not there to serve the empire, then you don't quite fit in with that very good.
Fortunately, my columns are still carried by the Huffington Post and by LouRockwell.com and on my own website, ericmargolis.com, as you kindly noted.
Yeah, there you go. And again, everybody, just spell it like Margolis, and you'll find it.
Margolis.
Yeah, there you go. And we'll have a link to it, of course, on the entry for the archive of this interview here. All right, now, let's continue with this theme for a minute here. The media, the Washington Post covered the Netanyahu video on their blog, and that's it. Nothing in the New York Times today. Say the guys in the chat room went and checked the whole Middle East section to make double sure this morning. Still nothing at the New York Times. And this is not news that the Prime Minister of Israel thinks it's absurd the way he's able to steamroll and buffalo the United States of America, and that the American people still support him no matter what.
Well, the mainstream, the big corporate media in the States has played an important role in making this happen. And, I keep saying, I used to cover the Soviet Union in the 1980s, and our corporate media today in the States, it reminds me incredibly of the Soviet media, particularly Pravda and Trud, in those days, where they had bootlicking journalists and editors who censored themselves, glorified their leaders, attacked anybody who opposed the Soviet Union, and knew when to censor themselves and what not to say.
There sure are, seem to be a lot of similarities. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, people would make fun of the Soviet media and say, like, haha, look at what the Soviet Union is, what their state media organs are telling the people over there. That's not true or whatever, and they thought it was funny because it usually was funny, right? It was, headlines written by bureaucrats who are out of touch. They don't know, how to tell a lie right either.
We have better propaganda in the United States today than the wretched Soviets had, but it's still propaganda. It's higher quality. It's made for TV quality, written by professional writers and things, but it still promotes the government line.
Mm-hmm. All right, now, so on the Israel issue, Raimondo in his article today says, look, supposedly our democracy is the greatest thing about us and all this, and yet it's the chink in our armor, because ultimately the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so if, Bill Kristol and his 24 friends can set up 36 think tanks and write at, 5 major editorial pages, then they control the entire discourse in America. And then the Israel lobby, of course, has major influence on the Democratic Party in terms of fundraising. You have the John Hageeite crazies on the right in the Republican Party, and Congress is, no matter what Israel does, the U.S. Congress, votes a resolution to support it by 90-something% in each house. It doesn't seem like that's going to change until, the whole thing comes crashing down.
Well, how long is it going to go on? We wonder. The Israeli thinker Uri Avneri, who I enormously admire, a wonderful line. He said that if Israel ordered the U.S. Congress to repeal the Ten Commandments, it would do it. And the Congress now has been so Pavlovian trained by the Israel lobby that it enacts legislation or motions even before the Knesset does in Israel. It's absolutely like a trained dog. And as Pat Buchanan said, Capitol Hill is Israeli-occupied territory. It's a fact of life, but you risk your career even talking about it.
Yeah, well, I ain't afeared because I don't have a career. So how about the fact that Barack Obama went and did some PR with Israeli media, directly to Israeli media, the same way Bush used to go on like controlled Arab media to try to talk to the people of the Arab world. That's what Obama's got to do to try to talk to the Israelis. And he says, well, I think, probably a lot of you mistrust me just because my middle name is Hussein. But, my chief of staff, his name is Ram Israel Emanuel, and he's a veteran of the IDF. And my other right-hand man, he's a descendant of Holocaust survivors. And, it was the Israel lobby in Chicago, the Jewish lobby says, in Chicago, that propelled me to the Senate in the first place. So please accept my undying loyalty to you. And they still don't like him.
It's pretty pathetic. There is great antipathy to Obama and Israel. They just don't trust him, period. He's not kosher. He smells. There's something wrong about him. And most Jewish Americans, many of them, not all, many Jewish Americans have the same concerns. But it's pathetic.
Yeah, because he implied one time that he was going to do anything at all about the permanent occupation.
That's right. That's right. And his middle name is Barak. Hussein rather. But it's pathetic that Obama has to go on his knees to the Israeli electorate, and it's called elections. November is coming, and Barak already got his wrist slapped by the Israel lobby for being cold to Netanyahu on his last visit after he humiliated Vice President Biden. So we now see Obama making as nice as he can.
Well, I think I read somewhere, too, I wish I remembered where, although I bet I could find it if I looked around, that the Likud party gets the majority of their donations from right-wing Jews in America, well, and probably from the Christian Zionists as well, and that it's not even necessarily, if Israelis were the only ones allowed to donate to their own candidates, we might not have the Likud at all.
Well, you have in the U.S., you do have a number of very wealthy financiers. You've got the Ronald Lauders of the world who's trying to portray himself as a Jewish patriot.
I'm sorry, Eric. We're all out of time.
Okay, well...
Hard breaks built into this thing.
True.
Everybody, that's Eric Margolis.